Democrats created a Republican legend.
Mr. Reagan.
All right, be sure to grab my Fight merch, now available at my Teespring store.
I raised my right arm and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight."
This is a moment that will go down in history, and I want to commemorate it, so grab a mug or a t-shirt or a towel or whatever. And remember, fight. All right, let's get into the video. Donald Trump's rise as a politician is truly astonishing. It's like a fairy tale. The attempted assassination of Donald Trump brought about something like a spiritual awakening in America. The bullet that tore through Donald Trump's ear, leaving blood streaming down his face, came just millimeters from killing him. And it was just the last-minute turn of his head that saved him. The bullet was so close, and the timing so perfect, that the moment seemed like a miracle. And I think that most people do believe that this moment was a miracle. Even Trump himself believes that God himself saved him that day.
I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God.
And so what we're seeing in America now is a sea change, a pivot away from the narcissism, misery, and corruption of the Democrat Party, and a pivot toward the hope, positivity, and ethical strength of traditional conservative values. And as I said, I don't think that this is simply a practical change in America. I believe that it is, at least in part, a spiritual awakening. But look, I think a lot of this is the Democrats' own doing. I don't think people really realize they need to get up and fight, that they need to become the hero, unless there is a villain to fight. There is no Fellowship of the Ring without Sauron. There's no need for a Superman without a Lex Luthor. There's no need for a Batman without a Joker. And there's no need for Donald Trump without a corrupt Washington, D.C. swamp. All right, I'm going to get into the details of Trump's rise and how the Democrats really caused this themselves in one moment. First, of course, I have to sell you something. Did you ever wonder what happened to the legend Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video that he made and I was shocked. He's in his 80s and he's still kicking butt and working out and staying active. What's even more shocking is that he's stronger, he can work out longer, and he has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says that he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger and her body looks leaner and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything, so make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/Reagan or by clicking the link in the description below. It'll change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/Reagan and click on the link in the description below and watch the video right now. You won't believe how simple it is. Just remember, the legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 84 years old and yet has more energy than I do. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health simply focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. Watch this method by clicking on the link in the description box below. It's chuckdefense.com/Reagan. In 2016, in spite of a barrage of attacks from the left, taking his comments out of context, casting Trump as every kind of bigot imaginable, as well as claiming that he would cause World War III, in spite of polling that indicated that Hillary Clinton would win in a landslide, Donald Trump pulled out a surprise election victory, shocking the world.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama is the ex-president. And Mr. Trump, for the moment, steps...
Now look, Trump was never far right. Trump was always a true centrist. But the leftist attacks from the very start of his presidential campaign, they actually pushed him further to the right. And that is the great irony of all of this. The left pushed Trump to the right. And honestly, I could not be happier that they did. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Donald Trump made a lot of outlandish promises. And you know what? Nobody really believed that he would keep these promises. Everybody figured he was like any other politician. He just makes a lot of promises and never intends to keep them.
Some of those jobs of the past are just not going to come back. And when somebody says that he's going to bring all these jobs back, well, how exactly are you going to do that? What are you going to do? He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. Well, how exactly are you going to negotiate that? What magic wand do you have? And usually the answer is he doesn't have an answer.
But again, Donald Trump shocked the world because Trump actually kept these promises. A politician actually did what he said he was going to do.
The president has delivered, at least to this point, what he promised. The manufacturing revival, the economic revival he promised in 2016 is well underway. 32,000 jobs added in manufacturing, 30,000 in construction.
And we've since learned that during the campaign, the CIA, foreign intelligence agents, and the FBI, they were all spying on Donald Trump's campaign. A lie was developed by CIA Director John Brennan and perhaps Obama himself that Trump was working with the Russian government to steal the 2016 election. This was entirely fabricated, but it became the excuse that was used to spy on Donald Trump, to spy on his campaign, and to spy eventually on his administration. This was corruption that truly was worse than Watergate. This hoax was then used to greenlight a special counsel investigation in order to accumulate evidence in an effort to find some reason to impeach Trump. They desperately wanted Trump gone. They wanted him out. And Trump eventually was impeached twice, but not because of the false claim of Russian collusion. That lie just completely fell apart. So two new lies had to be conjured up. First, Democrats invented the quid pro quo lie.
And so what happened on that call? It reads like a classic organized crime shakedown. I want you to make up dirt on my political opponent, understand lots of it. And by the way, don't call me again. I'll call you when you've done what I asked. This is, in character, what the president was trying to communicate with the president of Ukraine. It would be funny if it wasn't such a graphic betrayal of the president's oath of office.
And then they invented the January 6th armed insurrection lie.
They beat a Capitol Police officer to death with a fire extinguisher.
During the 2020 election, the vote count was inexplicably halted in the middle of the night, and when the vote count resumed, Joe Biden had suddenly, as if by magic, received the most votes in American history. So then after Joe Biden took office, Merrick Garland was appointed Attorney General. Now, Garland is the corrupt attack dog of the left, unfairly going after conservatives and ignoring the egregious corruption of the left. But Trump was targeted the most aggressively, culminating in a raid on his home in which the FBI unjustly searched his property and left with boxes of documents that had been actually shipped to Donald Trump's home by the General Services Administration. So one department within the government gave documents to Trump, and another raided his home with armed federal agents to confiscate these same documents. And then Trump was indicted for having those documents in his home. He was also indicted for a manufactured felony in which Trump endured a tedious show trial and was falsely convicted on 34 counts. And he's also been subjected to another sham trial with a corrupt prosecutor who siphoned millions of dollars in taxpayer money into the bank account of her boyfriend, all because Democrats wanted to create the illusion that Donald Trump called the Georgia Secretary of State Brett Raffensperger after the 2020 election and pressured him to manufacture fake votes in order to give Trump the win in Georgia. But we have the phone call record, and Trump was clearly asking Raffensperger to try to find real Trump votes that had gone missing and had yet to be counted. So again, another totally phony trial. And then there's the phony January 6th insurrection indictment against Trump filed by the bumbling deep state hitman Jack Smith. Now, what's fascinating about all the propaganda about Donald Trump and the raid and the indictments and all of this stuff piled on, all these attacks on Donald Trump, everything seems to have made Donald Trump more popular. And this seems to be because the American people, they see these attacks for what they are: corruption. And even if they don't support Donald Trump, most American voters, they will not abide corruption. And with each subsequent lie, attack, and phony indictment, Trump's support has grown. Now, parallel to these corrupt assaults by the left, the right has been claiming that Joe Biden is struggling with dementia, some sort of senility, probably caused by Alzheimer's or some other illness affecting Joe's brain. And as these accusations were leveled, the left adamantly refuted them. Joe Biden's mind is razor sharp, they said.
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
And then we got to the debate. Now, a lot of conservatives, they didn't even expect Joe Biden would do the debate. They thought he would drop out because we knew he was struggling with senility, and we didn't believe that his team would acquiesce to participate in a debate that would juxtapose an intelligent, quick-witted Donald Trump with a clearly senile Joe Biden. And yet, we got that debate. And for the first time, Joe Biden's senility was unquestionably exposed to the world. This, in the minds of many Americans, effectively ended the 2024 presidential campaign. Now, certainly the supporters of each candidate had to be resolved to go out and vote in November, but in terms of enthusiastic support, the race was effectively over. No one could, in good conscience, vote for a presidential candidate struggling with dementia. And at this point, the Trump campaign seemed to be on cruise control. Trump even told his team that it was less important to shore up support, less important to gather new votes, than it was to curtail election fraud. And Trump understood that he had all the votes he needed, but America was still vulnerable to election rigging. And this was his primary concern. Now, there is a theory, this is a theory that I proposed on my show, that if Trump can get enough votes in November 2024, that even with election rigging, well, he can still win. This is because believably rigging an election and not getting caught is actually somewhat difficult. There is a certain number of genuine votes that are needed for this to work. And so the theory goes that if Trump wins by a large enough margin, even a heavily rigged election would not stop him from winning. But some people were skeptical that Trump could win by that many votes. To do that, Trump would perhaps need a miracle. Then, July 13th, we got that miracle. An attempt on Donald Trump's life, an assassination attempt, nearly succeeded. Only by Trump's last-minute turn of the head did the bullet miss. But not only did the bullet miss, it grazed his ear, and it grazed his ear in such a way that it showed that he had been shot. So when Donald Trump stood in defiance of the shooter, in defiance of those who wanted him dead, his fist in the air letting the audience know that he was still alive, and he mouthed the word fight over and over. When he did this, it created an image that would become one of the most iconic images in political history. So it's not just incredible that the bullet missed Trump, it's incredible that the bullet hit Trump in just the perfect way that it did. If the bullet had been any closer, it would have killed him. Any further away, and we would not have had that visceral image of the blood streaming across Trump's face. This moment solidified Trump's popularity in America. Many Democrat voters voiced their support for Donald Trump after this, recognizing that they had been lied to. They had been lied to about Trump's bigotry. They had been lied to about Trump's corruption. They had been lied to about Biden's mental health. And they had been lied to about the violent nature of the right. The left in America, Trump's political enemies, had finally gone too far. And so you see, it was not just this moment that solidified Trump's victory in November, but it was a culmination of many moments. Of course, we Trump supporters from across the political spectrum, we must still fulfill our political obligations to go out and vote. We must vote for Donald Trump in November. And America must still ensure that the election is as clean and fair and transparent as possible. But as you see, since 2016, the support for Donald Trump in America has been building. And as I said, this swell of support did not just happen just because of the assassination attempt. In the end, the assassination attempt simply made Donald Trump a legend. And so if you want to know why we're in the position we're in, why America has pivoted in the way that it has, in a way, you can thank Democrats. All right, well, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just that they know so much that is not so. Good night.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.